Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Amanda. I am a neurodivergent woman. I have autism, ADHD, a rare memory disorder called SDAM, and multisensory aphantasia, which means that I don't experience any of the senses in my mind's eye. So I talk about all of these on the channel. So check out my other videos. Anyway, today I specifically wanted to talk about trip anxiety as a neurodivergent person, vacationing, that kind of thing. In one of my more recent videos, I talked about how I like to process out loud when I am worried or overthinking something, because I'm not 100% sure I have an internal monologue or one that works as well as other people. I have learned that talking out things really does help. And plus, I like sharing things like this on my channel because I know that other people have these types of insecurities and anxieties. And the more we talk about these things, the more it's normalized and the more that we don't have to feel shame or guilt or whatever for feeling our feelings, right? 'Cause that's never good, right? So, what happens for me specifically whenever I need to go on a trip, one of the big anxieties that shows up for me is around food. I mean, maybe this is why one of my early special interests was cooking. I don't know exactly where this came from. Also, when I was little, I had signs of like hypoglycemia. If I didn't eat, then I would get really, really dizzy and feel faint. I don't think I ever passed out, but as soon as I would eat a little bit, my blood sugar would regulate and I would be okay. But it made me super hyper aware of always making sure that food was nearby. Um, and even though I don't get those hypoglycemic types of sensations as much anymore, I still have a lot of control issues around food. Like if we have to go on an airplane ride, half of my in-flight carry-on is food. And my husband will say, like, there's no way you could ever eat that much food on a 4-hour plane trip. And I'm like, yes, but have you heard of stories where people get stuck on the tarmac? And I am not going to rely on making sure that the plane has enough food stocked for me because just can't handle it. I need my own food. Also, being autistic, I have my safe foods. Now, I am a sensory seeker when it comes to foods. This could be even more intense for an autistic person who has very limited safe sensory foods. For me, I'm a sensory seeker. I love trying new foods. I love lots of bold flavors and textures, but I still have to make sure that I have my safe foods with me. I don't know if I mentioned it on this channel. I am also the Neuro Spicy Mama. I have the YouTube channel for that where I talk about cooking, and on Instagram. And I know I've mentioned it a couple times on Instagram for probably, I don't even know, but like at least probably the last 5-ish years, I start almost every single morning with a homemade chocolate milk. I can skip it, but when I do, my day feels dysregulated. I I like my homemade chocolate milk. It is preferably raw milk, but the price of raw milk has gone up so much in our area that I've switched over to whole milk, dark cocoa powder, stevia, collagen powder, and if I'm trying to make it a little healthier, I will add a scoop of super greens, but often I leave that out. And then the rest of the day, I could eat random, funky, new flavored foods if I get to start my day off with my comfort food. So back to trip planning. So I'm going just a car trip up north to visit friends in Seattle. They are excellent hosts, excellent cooks. I love to go visit them because they are also food adventure people. So there's, oftentimes, like I think last time, I'm trying to remember, I think last time I visited them, like I got to try ramen for the first time. which I can't believe that was my first time to try ramen, like really, really authentic ramen, but I don't know. But like a one time I wanted to go visit them, I had kanji for the first time. And so I love that and having them show me new foods. But still, it's like when I go to visit them, I pack granola bars and like bagels and things in my suitcase, which I've always hid before. And it's not an eating disorder, it is food anxiety around autism. And it's like, even if I don't eat those things, just having them near me makes me less anxious. So that's one area where travel and anxiety will spike. Other times it's like, if it's flying, just, oh my gosh, everything about an airport is sensory nightmare. It's just fast paced. There's lots of loud noises. There's the intercoms. There's trying to make sure you are trying to get to where you need to be. I mean, most of us have been in airports. You realize that is a fast paced environment. And a lot of autistic people like myself, we tend to process slowly. So I would rather get to my gate an hour early and then just have time. I think it also helps with ADHD task switching. It's like I want to get to my gate and sit there for an hour, I mean, at least 30 minutes before they start boarding. My husband likes to time it where we're like there for 5 minutes. And that stresses me out so much. It's like I need that time. It's like, because by the time I get through the airport, I need time to sit before then we board the plane. And he's like, we're going to be sitting on an airplane for 3, 4, 5 hours. Why would you want to sit at the gate for that, extra time? And with my diagnosis, now I realize it's like I need that just calm time to make sure I know I'm there at the gate, right? So this is going to be a car trip. So making sure that I don't get lost. I also, have aphantasia. So I have to have a GPS when I drive places. Nowadays, it's not as bad because GPS connection is pretty consistent, especially because like between where I am just north of Portland and up to Seattle, it's not super rural. It's like one straight freeway all the way up. But in the past, like if I'm traveling somewhere and I know that I might have spotty GPS, I have to print out maps or make sure I have a map in my car because I just can't visualize my route. I can't memorize, like, oh, go down this road for 50 miles. Like, no, do not give me instructions like that. I need my GPS. So driving to Seattle is fine. But then once I get to downtown areas, and my friends live in downtown Seattle, or just on the outskirts, like basically they live in the downtown area. And I love it. I love visiting them, but I would never want to live in that high, fast-paced kind of environment. I can handle it for a short visit, and I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to spend a short weekend there. But navigating and parking on the street and all of these things spike my anxiety so much. So these are things that I want to do. I like to travel. I like to do these things. But the anxiety surrounding them, like today, my entire day, we're going in the morning, is I'm just feeling like jittery. I've got my stuffy. This morning I went to the grocery store to pick up, I bought a ton of fruit. She's got 4 kids. I've got 2 kids. So I'm going to bring a bunch of fruit to share, with all the kids because they all love fruit. But like when I was at the grocery store, I was trying to like figure out what I needed for this trip, make sure my husband's staying home. So I wanted to make sure he had food. And then I wanted to make sure I had food for when I get back from the trip, because after a long weekend of socializing and visiting, the last thing I want to do is go to the grocery store. So I want to make sure that I had food already at home to last at least several days. And the lady at the checkout stand, she was like, "Oh, well, it looks like you got enough food to last a couple weeks." And I'm like, "Yep, I'll be back in about a week." Nope. But we are a family of four where my husband works at home. I have two kids at school at home, and then I'm home, and we eat all our meals plus our snacks pretty much at home. We rarely ever eat out. So my grocery cart looks like that every week. Um, oh, but yeah, as I was grocery shopping this morning, because my anxiety was so high, I was listening to music. Normally, I've got a video on my earplugs. Normally, I just put my earplugs in, but I wanted to try something different today. I decided to listen to music. And I was listening to music and I was lip syncing, and I was also like stemming like throughout the store. My favorite one is this stem right here, but even that's still too much for me to do in public. So I was doing more like this stemming, which this motion is okay, but honestly, for my blind viewers, the chicken wings where I've got my elbows flapping up and down is my favorite one. Just shaking my fists up near my shoulders with my elbows down by my sides is one that I'll do it in public at the grocery store because it's a big stem, but it's more subtle than with your elbows out flapping like a chicken. But so here I am in the grocery store when I was trying to think, and I was shaking my fists up, near my shoulders, and I was listening to music and lip syncing the words along. And I swear, I kept running into this one older lady, and she was probably like, "Is that woman like crazy?" Like she kept looking at me, but you know what? I've just got to like let that go. I'm never going to run into this woman again. I needed that at the grocery store. I needed that motion to like calm me down because I was having a hard time with all of the planning. Like, okay, this is what I'm going to take on my trip. This is what my husband's going to need. This is what I want for when I get back. Now, I could have mitigated some of that with some better list making the night before. And I tried to make a list like that. And I realized when I got to the grocery store, my list was not as efficient or effective as I needed it to be. Like I tried, I thought I had a good list. When I got there, the list I made wasn't helpful. That happens sometimes. So anyway, yeah, like right now I'm feeling just like all this anxiety. This trip is also extra anxious because it's probably going to be one of the last times we get to see these friends because they are moving to Europe at the end of the summer. And we'll stay in touch. I've literally known them since my babies were babies. I met these friends when I was pregnant with my twins, and she was pregnant with her twins, and they've grown up together, and it's so special. But we're going to stay in touch. But it's going to be a hard weekend because we don't know when the next time we'll get to see them. Might be several years, Anyway, so I'm curious. So yeah, well, I'm going to summarize really quick. So for me, travel, one of the biggest anxiety areas is making sure I have my safe foods with me. When it's a car trip, it's easier because I can like bring a cooler and I can bring, my food with me in my car. When I'm traveling by airplane, that makes it a lot harder. And then making sure that when I get to my destination, that I can like buy the foods that I want to have for whatever that trip is. Going to Europe, like if we ever do make it there, I don't even want to begin to figure out how I'm going to manage my food anxiety on that trip. But that's so far out, I'm not going to worry about it right now. Maybe I'll have more coping skills by then. But right now, it's a big one, and it's one that I've masked. Like I said, I would always, like when I go home to visit like my in-laws or things like that, I've always hid food in my suitcase, and that doesn't feel good. It feels like shameful and like something's or like judgmental on my host, and it is not about that or them. It's about me and my anxieties. And having diagnosis around this is just another piece to uncover that it's not anything wrong with me. It's my autism. And just acknowledging that helps, and having a way to explain it to people and say, look, it isn't that you aren't a good host and that I don't feel like you provide food for us. That's what I always felt like, It's like I need these specific foods, and I don't want you to have to be responsible for my food needs. Anyway, I don't know if anybody else has this specific anxiety. It is literally like one of my top ones that I've had for years and years and years before I knew I was autistic. But I would love to hear down in the comments what some of your anxieties around travel are, and maybe we can kind of help brainstorm each other and solve some, give some tips and tricks on some of these. Thank you for watching, and until the next video, bye guys.